Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. Welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast. Between technical difficulties and the loose nut behind the microphone, we are already off to a blazing start this evening.
It'll be fine.
Dude.
It could be worse.
I'm telling you that lately.
We got you here before the show officially started. That's important.
Yeah, well, Nick was giving me my my not-so-gentle 5-minute reminder as I was furiously rebooting a computer and plugging and unplugging stuff because...
I'm trying to be a helpful co-host.
And I appreciate that. I really do. But... you know, this was the day that my microphone spontaneously decided it didn't really like my desktop, and they just decided to not play together well.
Pixies.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some gremlins chewing on the cables in this old girl, but, you know, like I told Nick, I'm like, I unplugged everything, I plugged everything back in, the standard IT advice, and it fixed itself. And I'm a little concerned because I don't think I did anything to make it fix itself. It just decided, okay, fine, we'll play nice.
So from an IT perspective, not that I'm an IT person, but I am the IT person at work.
Same.
A lot of times what that is like Windows has forgotten something is plugged into the port. And when you disconnect it and reconnect it, it sees the current change and goes, let's look at what's on that port.
But oddly enough, I unplugged and plugged it back into the same port, and it did not work. So I unplugged it, plugged it into another USB port, and then it worked. And then I plugged it back into the original USB port because I thought maybe I had a dead USB port, and it still works. And that's...
okay, I've got no answers for that.
You know what? My boss has a thing for this. He calls it PFM, pure effing magic.
That's pretty much all of IT in general, especially when printers are involved. I mean, microphones are not nearly as bad as printers.
No, but bear in mind that I do have an XLR hardware recorder between my microphone and my computer, so there's like a little bitty computer right here on the desk in between this thing and that thing. And Tonight was the night that and that decided we don't like each other and we're not talking to each other no matter what you do.
That's all right. These things happen.
Yes. Okay, admin work, mini topic, maybe an argument, and then we'll get to the main topic, Mad Max or Terminator. And Raggle is already grousing us in the goddamn comments.
Good.
We couldn't squeeze in the Matrix. I mean, if I squeeze in every movie that has predicted the future into the title, no one will read it. It'll be too damn long, and I'm sure it'll get me even more copyright strikes than we're going to get already.
Wait, are we talking... first off, Raggle, are we talking Matrix the movie or Matrix the book?
There's a book?
You need to fix yourself. Read the book.
Read
the original
book. How
book.
can I fix myself if I wasn't aware a thing existed in the first place?
You now know that there is a problem and you have to correct it. So, all right. Another inevitable tangent. The reason why the Matrix movie is terrible and needs to be lit on fire has nothing to do with its production quality or storytelling. It is all down to one single fact. And Phil, do you know what that is?
It's not as good as the book?
No. They decided the audience wouldn't be able to understand using the human brains for processing power. And instead, they decide the audience will understand them using it as batteries instead.
Point of order.
Humans are wildly inefficient energy generators.
Point of order. Didn't you and I have a conversation just this morning about how there's a lot of like mid-70s IQ people running around?
Look, there absolutely are. But there's also a bunch of people of reasonable intelligence. And the stupid people didn't get the point of them being used as batteries anyway. They didn't understand it. So why not just have them used for processing power like it was in the book, which actually makes a lot of sense because it turns out biological hardware is really good at processing vast quantities of data.
I mean,
it's just not always accurate. Of course, neither is mechanical AI.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just saying that you might be giving humanity more credit than it's due.
Oh, no, not humanity. Biological computing.
No. I'm talking about the people who were going to understand people use as batteries instead people use as computers.
All of the people that I have brought that up to go, oh yeah, no, that makes way more sense.
Time out.
As batteries.
Time out.
But most of my friends are also like, IT professionals, skilled
See,
tradesmen,
this
a
is
literal brain surgeon.
this is like when Phil says, damn, I shoot like trash. And in reality, I outshoot like 75, 80% of people on the range. And the real problem is I know way too many people that just happen to shoot way, way, way above average.
Yeah, and I am actively the dumbest person in my friend group, which is, I think, where we all should strive to be, because my God, is it useful having smarter people around.
It does come in handy. All right. There's comments. And then actually no, admin work, then comments. Because if I skip the admin work, you will make me get a
Gotcha.
If you'd like to promote bad decisions by becoming a patron, that links in the show description. The patrons keep the show running. They keep the wheels on the bus, even though it's on fire half the time, and it's shorter than usual, and it's usually rolling downhill with no brakes. But it's still funded, and that helps. If you'd like to buy merch for the Vibes from the Southern Gals, that link is also in the show description. Koozies, hats. I don't think we do hats, actually. Koozies and shirts.
No, I'm trying to get them to do hats.
From secondhand experience, having known somebody that used to run a business that made hats, it is a completely different manufacturing like setup compared to.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
But maybe enough harassment and enough people that will actually spend money on them will motivate them.
I would buy my hat.
And if you'd like to prevent war crimes with Disaster Coffee code MOF, this is your weekly reminder that since Disaster Coffee had to kill off all the subscriptions, you still need to go in and put an order like an adult. I recently had to spend a not inconsequential amount of money on 15 pounds of bunker beans.
I also need to order coffee.
Yeah, and if you're keeping score at home, like, I think the last price increase to keep up with the escalating cost of coffee worldwide. I think we're up to like $48 for a 5-pound bag, which is still undercutting pretty much everybody else I've been able to find selling green coffee beans.
Mm-hmm. It's a quality bean for a reasonable price.
Yes. And, I can let this cat out of the bag because this is going to be live on the website very shortly if it isn't already. I think we're in final approval process. Disaster Coffee is bringing forth our first... No, I was about to say our first two, but really we already have a flavored coffee offering in the pumpkin spice, the black pumpkin.
Yeah.
We're bringing out two more.
Oh.
S'mores and pecan pie.
Oh. And I love me some pecan pie.
And the pecan pie has a story behind it that I will not bore everybody to death with. When it goes live on the website, you'll see like my justification for why pecan pie has such a sweet spot in my heart. And we might talk about it on the show another time.
Phil, slight sidebar about pecan pie. Have you ever had pecan pie made with honey instead of the like corn sugar syrup?
Corn syrup? No.
Yeah.
Cairo corn syrup is traditional.
Dude, do it with honey instead.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Try it.
My great-grandmother made it with Cairo corn syrup, and that is the only way I'm making it from now until I meet her on the other side of the veil.
It's so much better.
I don't.
She'll forgive you.
No, I doubt that. You didn't meet her in life.
In the afterlife, then you've got a while to work this off.
You didn't meet her in life, dude. That lady did not play about cooking or baking.
Oh, if she's anything like my great grandma, that is accurate.
Yeah. All right. Comments. My wife is asking, could it be because I worked from home yesterday? Is that the reason I'm off today? I don't think so. I think it's just been a very worky week at work.
Yeah.
And I agree with Raggle. Yes, we work from home. The storm is basically non-existent. I will say up here on the North Shore, we didn't, or leave. Okay. So where I live, there was very minimal rain, like a sprinkling, and the wind picked up, but it wasn't anything severe. I understand that like 20 minutes east of us, the rain was much more consistent. And I was kind of surprised when I drove home from work today because all up and down Lakeshore Boulevard in New Orleans, there were like not huge tree limbs, but like, chunks of palm tree and everything scattered all over the road. So apparently the wind was a lot worse on the other side of the lake. Which I'm not upset that we work from home at all, because my single biggest concern, and this is the same thing I talked about in the group with Scott, was, it was just a tropical storm, big whoop. But if the wind hits 45 miles an hour, they shut down one of the two bridges I used to get home, and that means 100% of that traffic goes the opposite direction. And
Now
now,
your commute time tripled.
not quite triple, but it does go up precipitously. So
Mm.
it really was a situation where, like, I think my workplace did the right thing out of an abundance of caution.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it also makes for a really good dry run so that we work out any IT problems, any access problems, any kind of little issues now when we might have to work from home for like several days because of a real storm.
True, true. That's a good point. They might as well use a test day like this because really you don't lose much productivity.
Not for one day.
No.
Da, 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 da. Yes, Nick said, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes. You need to read the book. It's better for technical reasons.
Your wife says she needs that coffee. I'm not sure if she's talking about s'mores or pecan pie, but
One and or both. We need to make a coffee order this weekend, so she'll handle that for sure. Or she'll make me handle that.
yeah. And Rag was saying if it's anything like pecan praline from Community, I haven't tried that one actually.
I haven't either.
I'll be the first to admit I usually don't. I usually don't go for flavored coffees. It's just not my usual vibe, but I'm willing to try them. And we have gotten enough. We've gotten enough requests over the years that the three of us got together and figured like this was a place to push the product line. And if we get a lot of response from it, we do have quite a selection of other roasts we could put into the store.
Nice.
I mean, me being the me guy, the business guy, I always go back to the idea that like, hey, if we're going to add stuff to the store, let's take away a couple of roasts that aren't really doing well.
Right.
Kind of keep the SKUs from getting too numerous.
Oh yeah, because that just adds additional complexity and cost. The more SKUs you have to manage,
and
if you don't have the sales to drive it.
And the bigger problem is like me being the business guy that tends to crunch the numbers and do the pricing model and everything. Like having 30 SKUs when only 20 of them sell just makes me work 50% harder for no payoff.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rimfire Radio saying good evening, and Dr. Scary Guy is also in. Appreciate all y'all coming and hanging out. Now, let's have an argument before we have a topic. Revolvers, are they still relevant? Now, there's two things we got to front load this with. First of all, this is because I continue to see arguments online, mostly, I want to say tactitards very gently, from younger gun affiliated people on social media. Younger being like, I'm 43, I'm middle aged. I keep seeing this argument come out from guys in their 20s. And I also bring this up knowing that Nick really doesn't like revolvers.
I want to is the problem, because I want nothing more than to be able to cosplay Indiana Jones, but just walking around in real life. Probably lose the whip, mostly because they get tangled in absolutely everything. I know guys who have done it as a costume for Halloween at parties, and it knocks over everything. I love how revolvers look. I love the idea of revolvers. I love the mechanical clockwork mechanism in a revolver. I fucking hate how they shoot. I do. I just hate them. Look, do revolvers have a place? I guess. If you, I don't think there's a job revolvers do that modern semi-automatics can't do just as well.
I mean, that's a theory.
No, that's what I'm going to throw out there. I don't think there's a job a revolver will do, barring the ultra high caliber super magnums like what is it? The
454, 460,
yeah, the
500,
the 460,
480
the 500.
Ruger.
But let's be honest here. Those calibers, for the most part, don't do the job that they're supposed to do very well. Well, they're a extraordinarily shitty rifle, is really what you're getting at with those. You're looking to get into rifle-like muzzle energy in a more portable package.
To be fair,
in which case, carry a rifle.
460 and 500 were basically built to convert money into noise.
Yeah.
480 Ruger was an attempt
to take their argument for use case was bare defense. And let's be clear, a 12 gauge with slugs is for bear defense. A 500 Smith & Wesson is not.
44 Magnum.
44 Magnum.
454 Casull.
You can get 44 Magnum performance out of calibers in a semi-automatic platform. Are they common? No. Can you get them? Yes.
Okay. So here's my, first of all, yes, relevant in my opinion. But here's where I'm coming from with this. All the arguments I hear against revolvers is that they're capacity limited, they're slow to reload.
Mm-hmm.
What else does that sound familiar to?
Shotguns.
And yet with shotguns, we tolerate that the power advantage overrides the capacity limitation, them being slow to reload, more time spent admin handling.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't accept that with revolvers when, if we're going to make the best apples to apples comparison, a lot of that still holds true. Like, I ran the numbers right before the show just to satisfy my own curiosity, but like every 9mm load I have access to and every 357 Magnum load I have access to, 9mm is 300 to 400 foot-pounds of energy and 357 is 500 to 625.
Okay. 10mm.
44 Magnum.
Right. And you can get 44 Magnum semi-automatics.
But my point...
You can get 30 carbine semi-automatics.
But my point is, you can get a power differential if we're talking about a more...
You can. But it's not the same... All right.
But I don't...
Here's the deal.
I don't accept 10mm as a fair comparison to 357 Magnum, because that's like comparing 45 ACP to 50 Action Express. You're talking about a cartridge that was developed to compete toe-to-toe with 44 Magnum. So if we're going to make that comparison, it's a more fair comparison to compare 10mm auto to 44 Magnum. Not compare the 357 Magnum, which is, in effect, just a lengthened out, grown up 38 special.
But there's also a much more significant power differential between, say, your common household rifle that people do claim they are going to use for home defense, 5.56, 7.62 by 39, 300 blackout, and a 12 gauge. Also, 12 gauge does have some benefits that you don't get from a revolver when you're looking at revolver to semi-automatic pistol.
Such as?
And that's evading certain states' unconstitutional bans. In order to get the same muzzle energy that I can deliver out of a fully loaded semi-automatic 12 gauge, revolvers are not illegal in Illinois. No, Jim, they are not. My point, Jim, is that I cannot have an AR with a 30 round mag at my bedside. I can, however, have a 5+1 loaded with double-aught 9 pellet, which is essentially 9 pellets times 6, 36 rounds. That's 36 projectiles in a 6-round firearm. Semi-automatic has similar muzzle energy per pellet to a 9mm. So no, I'm not getting as much muzzle energy as each individual 5.56 round, but you are getting more muzzle energy on target per shot, significantly more than the difference between a 9mm handgun and a 357 or 44 Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not ever going to tell people don't buy revolvers. I wish I could love revolvers. I would love to have a collection of old World War I and World War II era revolvers, going all the way back to, I would almost go to a Peacemaker. There are a pair of Peacemakers that I would like to have that I know where they are, and I cannot possibly afford to make an appropriate offer on them because they're originals in their original box. But I don't think, for the average modern day firearms person that's entering into the market, I do not know that there are that many situations that justify a revolver over a semi-automatic handgun.
No.
Especially when it comes to availability, price, and usability.
I don't disagree with you on anything except revolvers still do things that semi-autos don't do near as well. Again, going back,
I'm interested.
We can argue about power. I still think that an apples to apples comparison means you can, with a similar frame, similar size, similar everything revolver, you can get more power on target than a semi-auto of comparable cartridge.
Okay.
You can also dramatically download most revolvers, which is something that's much more difficult to do with a semi-auto. With a 9mm semi-auto, can you put a 22 conversion?
There is a minimum load to cycle the firearm.
There's a minimum load cycle to firearm. It's much more difficult to down. You cannot drop. Okay, wait a second. You can stick a 380 ACP into a 9mm chamber. I don't advise you try it.
I was going to say, it will fire.
But my point is, with that same 357 Magnum I can download really, really light, nice and easy 38 specials and turn it into a training firearm for a new shooter immediately with a dramatic decrease in recoil, decrease in muzzle report, and make that gun a lot less intimidating for a new shooter. I can also do things with it like put rat shot and snake shot in it. That, yes, they do make 9mm snake shot.
They do.
But
it won't cycle reliably.
It won't cycle reliably. And to drop one into a 9mm, you're talking about dropping the magazine, emptying the chamber, dropping one in the chamber. It's a bit of a procedure versus with a revolver where it's open up the cylinder, hit your ejector star gently, pull one round out, drop one in, and then hock and load it.
Like I said,
or like
there are some situations where, yes, a revolver can do a thing. I said there's not many.
And I think I don't disagree with you. I think it comes down to perspective. If you compare,
it does.
It's like where we started this conversation with comparing 357 Magnum to 9mm, and you immediately said 10mm. Well, if we compare a 357 Magnum to a Glock 19 and say, well, this is obviously a better carry gun than this is, I'm like, well, yeah, but this still does things this doesn't, which is the biggest reason why shotguns get a pass for a lot of the same criticisms, is that with a shotgun, you have a lot of availability of load. You can tailor the firearm to do what you want with it based on what you're putting into it. You can load very, very hot and very, very soft shooting shells into it. You can go for that super powerful load. You can download to birdshot. You can do all these different things with it. And that is kind of my argument about revolvers. You do have an element of flexibility to them that semi-autos don't mimic very well, even as I admit, semi-autos do a ton of things a hell of a lot better than revolvers, which is why literally no serious police or military force in the world I'm aware of still uses revolvers.
Yeah, there are some, and they're usually Southeast Asian or I think I have seen them in some of the Brazilian police forces.
But I think those are probably
old revolvers,
old surplus revolvers that are basically
they are. Yeah, they are. And look, that's not to say, look, I might personally not like revolvers as much as I would love to love revolvers just for the pure mechanical nature of them. When revolvers do malfunction,
they go down hard.
They go down really fucking hard. You are not fixing that with a tap rack drill. You're just not.
And
do semi-autos malfunction more often than revolvers? They absolutely do. The difference is you can have a half second to 1 second drill that you've memorized that most of the time gets them back into the game. With a revolver, a lot of times it involves hammers, screwdrivers, and gunsmithing tools.
And anybody that says revolvers are more reliable or don't require as much maintenance or upkeep or cleaning is full of it. I have 2 revolvers. Every time I take those things out to the range, they get the snot cleaned out of them. My semi-autos, I literally field strip it, wipe everything out, put a couple squirts of oil into it, put it back together, and I clean it maybe every 10 range trips, and it works fine.
Well, the difference is a cam-activated clockwork mechanism, which, as compared to plunger spring-driven mechanisms, which are most semi-automatics.
Yeah, I mean,
you have more places where having an amount of debris would be catastrophic in a revolver than you do in a semi-auto.
Yeah, can't argue any of that. I'm not,
and that's, I will never tell people to not buy revolvers. If you like them, hell, go for it. They're cool.
Yeah,
they look cool. They're a cool guy thing. Get yourself a custom tooled leather holster or a bandolier. Go wild.
What I always tell people is like, I never recommend a revolver for a first firearm ever. And that runs so counter to so much common advice you get from friggin' old fuds and boomers.
I have, in one very specific circumstance, and finish your point and I'll tell you why.
The reason why I don't recommend it as a default position though is because 9mm double stacks hold more ammunition. They're easier to train, easier to learn, easier to remediate problems, much wider user base. Any instructor worth their salt can teach you how to shoot a Glock 19. Any instructor worth their salt could look at a CZ P10 or a Smith & Wesson or a Shield or a SIG. They could look at any of these striker fired these striker fired guns and tell you how it runs, because they're not all that dissimilar to each other.
No, they're remarkably similar.
But there is a certain amount of teething trouble with learning how to shoot revolvers. You have to put in a lot of time getting really good with double action trigger pulls. You have to put in a lot of time getting really consistent with your reloads. It's not that it can't be done. Obviously, Jerry Michelet can shoot a revolver like a machine gun, but it takes reps and time that the average new shooter is not willing to put in to become what I would consider to be combat effective with a revolver, which is why I default to the platform that has proven to supplant the revolver for most uses.
Yeah, there is a lot to be said for that.
But what was the one scenario in which you recommend a revolver over a semi-auto for a new shooter?
The only time I've recommended a revolver over a semi-auto for a new shooter was a lady that I was a friend of that had a medical issue with her left hand. She was unable to manipulate the slide with her left hand. Now, this was prior to the easy slides that came out. This was prior to a couple of the additional. They replaced the backplate on the Glock so that you could just flip her and rack the slide. Yeah. She was unable to do that. She had the dexterity in her hands to reload a revolver. She did not have the strength to grip and pull the slide.
And that is a unique situation in which I would happily say that maybe a revolver makes more sense for you.
It did for her, because I had her shoot I think at the time I had a Smith & Wesson 686 and 357.
It's a nice revolver.
I had her shoot that. It was a very nice revolver. I thought, if anything, if I was going to love a revolver, it would be that one. And I just couldn't. I don't know why. But I had her shoot that with 38s, and I had her try loading it with speed loaders with 38s. That she could do. She could not cycle my 9mm. She could not cycle my 22. And you know how soft the 22 slide is. She just couldn't get the grip strength on it. And because she had injured her hand. So there are some occasions, yes. But for most new shooters, most of the time, semi-automatics are the answer.
No, that's fair. I just had to start an argument because sometimes it's fun to argue with people about stuff on the internet. Now, is Hollywood predicting our future? Because we talked about this last episode when we were griping about how people were talking to AI and how one of us is going to want to be leading the resistance and the other one is going to wind up like running fuel trucks through the friggin' desert of Australia while being fended off by a bunch of BDSM wearing nutcases. Like, this is going to, like, all of Hollywood seems intent on telling us that eventually the world is going to fall apart and our lives are going to suck. And it always seems to start with talking to the machines or religious zealotry.
And even more so, religious zealotry around talking to machines.
Yeah.
And the religions that develop around machines.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the reasons why we see this trope come up a lot is because it is very easy to tell a compelling narrative in an apocalypse. I mean, the conflict is right there. You don't have to even think to get conflict. 3 monkeys with a typewriter can write an apocalypse novel. It's really not that difficult. I mean, any D&D DM has written an apocalypse setting. We all have. Every single one of us that's ever tried running a D&D game for our friends has thought, oh, why don't I write an apocalypse setting? And then you realize Dark Sun exists. You're like, why the fuck did I do all this work? Dark Sun was right there the entire time.
For the vibes.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
Look, go for it.
So I count 8 of these movies in no particular order.
Okay.
Waterworld.
I'm saying it's right out. That's some bullshit. The world would already be flooded and would have been flooded for the last 25 years. Hollywood fucked that one up. Fun movie with a lot of plot holes.
It does make for a really, really good anti-smoking ad, though.
It Does it though? Does it? Because you got to admit, the bad guy looks pretty cool.
Yeah, until he blows up the tanker he's in.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, he wasn't bright, but that jacket, you're telling me you wouldn't roll that leather jacket, Phil?
No, I would, but that also seems to be a
Exactly.
thing with leather jackets in these movies.
Leather jackets are just amazing. They're great. They're all-time favorite.
All right.
But
so Terminator. Now, because this started an argument last time, this is the T-800, the titanium endoskeleton with the human flesh on the top. The idea that the machines have taken over and they are trying to destroy humanity.
Hey, the final battle is only 3 years out. August 20, I believe it's August 29th, 2029 is the final battle where John Connor takes down Skynet.
So when is Judgment Day again?
Judgment. Oh, so that was like 1997 in the original timeline, and then it got pushed back to 2003 because the new Terminator movie came out in 2000.
Okay.
They couldn't set it 3 years in the past.
So the next one will push it out like another 10 or 15 years, I guess.
So essentially, the way the Terminator franchise has justified it, and I think this is actually a really good way to do it, is every time the movie happens, they push off the Skynet takeover because the heroes have done something constructive.
It does leverage the idea of time travel, which is like every time you screw with anything in the past, it like changes the future. So it is kind of like continually self-fertilizing ground for new movies and sequels. Yeah. Because literally all these things really could happen in the same universe, just in different versions of the same universe.
Yeah, I want to say it was 1997 that Skynet first theoretically took over.
Yeah. But here's the question. Since you started off with Waterworld saying it was complete and total bullcrap.
Yes.
Plausible? Maybe not the timeline, but is it plausible that okay. Let's separate a couple
things. Is it plausible that the ice caps would entirely melt, flood 100% of the land, and we would entirely have to live on floating atolls of old boats?
We already wrote off Waterworld. I was saying, is Terminator plausible? Bearing in mind that this all starts with an AI that gets loose and becomes self-aware and then starts doing things it's not supposed to.
I would say technically possible, being that we are already field testing weaponized AI drones. And AI drones have already killed people. So
all we need
depends on how much it's integrated.
So all we're waiting for is for the AI to decide that we are the problem.
No, I think what we're waiting for is somebody to make a catastrophic air gap error in our defense networks.
Assuming they haven't already.
Yes. Assuming we haven't already. Look, Phil, you were in the military. I've had quite a few friends in the military. Some of them did IT for the military. I can tell you guys this much. The military IT systems were built by the exact same E4 mafia that is reorganizing two different stock rooms so they can both meet their inventory while neither one of them has the correct inventory.
Yes, and I can also tell you that back in 2003, I had to have a security clearance for things on aircraft that I don't think have been declassified to this day.
Yep.
So let's just assume that if there was a problem, you and I won't know about it until things start flying around in the sky.
That's kind of the thing. Look, I don't think that we are going to get the Terminator walking around shooting everybody AI apocalypse. I think what is far more likely is right now we have what looks like a bubble. And if it's not a bubble, to quote one of my favorite YouTube channels, why bubble shaped?
Yes.
I think what we are going to see is we are going to see continual pushing of AI integration into systems and companies and networks and solutions where it is really not ready or capable for.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see more massive involvement. We are going to see governments dumping thousands of trillions of dollars into this stuff globally. And eventually that money's going to run out. Eventually people are going to go, why is this one company that's never showed a profit worth more than the GDP of Greece?
Mm-hmm.
Why is the most valuable company in the world Tesla? Like their profits and earnings aren't anywhere near realistic. Look, I love what Tesla's doing. I love the innovation, but let's be realistic here. Their stock valuation is wildly overvalued to an insane degree. And maybe SpaceX is part of that. Maybe it's the Elon Musk effect, whatever. But look, this money train will end eventually. And I think AI is probably going to be that next big bubble that really smashes the economy hard.
Potentially.
I think AI has its uses, but I think it's going to be one of the main. I think it's going to be one of the main leading causes behind the next major financial global meltdown.
I have a slightly different opinion.
Go for it.
I think what is likely to happen is going back to what you were saying about how AI is being shoved into all sorts of places it doesn't necessarily belong.
Mm-hmm.
I think sooner or later, someone's going to get the bright idea to start connecting this to things like telecom or power generation, power routing. And
they already are.
And eventually, it is going to do something unforeseen.
Mm-hmm.
And no one, because the people that I see that are pushing this really don't have a good explanation for why it does some of the weird things it does.
You mean when it starts talking to itself in a language we can't decode again?
Yeah.
For the fourth fucking time?
I just feel like sooner or later, some switch is going to get flipped someplace. The eastern seaboard is going to go dark, and no one's going to have any freaking clue how to fix it or how to reverse it. Because all the knowledge, because as AI is being pushed into these things, the knowledge of how to do it without AI is also being pushed out at the same rate.
Look, you see that very much even in my industry. Okay. CNC computing equipment has really pushed out the old school knowledge of how to do some of the things that I have learned how to do. And I have reverse engineered the knowledge of how to do for myself, for my hobbies. There are very few people working in manufacturing anymore that understand how to say, well, like this right here, that could tell you how to make this without a CNC lathe or or live tooling lathe.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea how you could make this on a manual machine. Not a clue. Now, if the CNC goes away, in this example, the AI, if the AI tool suddenly can't be trusted, how are they going to fix the power grid if all the people that used to run it have been booted out, forcibly retired?
Excellent question. So we might just be able to throw the Matrix in right behind Terminator because it's kind of a riff off the same thing. The machines have done things they're not supposed to do and are making decisions that impact people dramatically and negatively.
Yeah. Much like I said in the beginning of the show, if you haven't read the book, read the book. The premise is better because they're using human brains for something they'd actually be useful for instead of batteries, because humans are terrible power generation sources.
And what are they using human brains for?
Processing power is theoretically what they were for, is processing power and data.
Some
data
humans don't do a really good job of data processing.
Well, let's be fair to those humans. They are still able to breathe and do all their normal bodily functions. They're able to move in a complex 3D environment, and they're able to process extreme high fidelity video and audio. Whether or not they do it well or accurately, they are able to do all of those things.
Setting the bar fairly low there, Nick.
Look, man, if you're looking for just raw compute data in, data out, it beats current hardware. And our current computing hardware is approaching the point where Phil, have you heard about this? There's a new chip that has been developed that the trace layer lines are only like 15 atoms thick.
Mm-hmm.
So at 15 atoms thick, that's very, very tiny. There's not much more room that we can compress that before we start reaching the limits of physics.
Mm-hmm.
And human brains are still more efficient. We're not entirely sure why, but they are.
And we use so little of them.
No, we actually use almost all of them all the time. That humans only use 10% of their brain. We only use 10% of our brain actively. The passive uses of our brain is massive. It's almost all of it. The active portion where we're actually thinking and decision making might only be 10%, but the rest of it we are using for things. You can't just go taking pieces out.
I want to accept that challenge, but I can't think of a non-gruesome way to prove it.
There are examples of people having chunks of their brain damaged and the brain recovering, but there's usually significant changes to personality and function.
I guess that's fair. All right. Warhammer 40K, my favorite fever dream to bestow upon you whenever I see some new piece of weapons technology. And I'm like, dude, we have bolters now.
They've also started using cloned human neural tissue to play video games.
Like a servitor?
Like a servitor. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what a servitor is in the Warhammer 40K universe, essentially what they do is they wipe out the higher functions of your brain and they input a task instead into your brain, and you are repaired with mechanical components to keep yourself functional for as long as possible.
Kind of like the book The Matrix, huh?
Similar to the book The Matrix, except like servitors would be like, your forklift has a human brain in it, and it knows where to stack this pallet. It only knows where to stack this pallet, and only if that shelf is empty. That's its entire life. And some of them are still semi-conscious inside of there, but they can't do anything about it.
I also love to bring up things like the Adeptus Mechanicum and how they have to like recite incantations over the machines because they don't understand how they work. They just know that if they blow the smoke on and pray the right high verses, that it'll start working again. And how that seems really, really similar to current IT work.
Phil, are you familiar with what occurred on a U.S. naval ship and their radar array?
No.
So at one point, and now this may be an urban legend. I do not know it firsthand. I do not know it secondhand. I heard it from a Navy sailor that is the sister of my coworker. And so the story goes, someone snuck a pet chicken onto the ship.
Doesn't sound completely outlandish.
Soldiers and sailors have been sneaking pets places they shouldn't for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This chicken died. Okay. And they put it in a box up by the radar array. Now, at some point in the future, down the line, some tech goes up there and says, well, what the hell is this box doing here? Takes the box away, and now the radar array no longer functions. Their solution was to dump the chicken carcass overboard and put the box back, and the radar array started working again. So, I'm guessing it was a grounding issue that was being solved by some metal in the box. I have no idea.
Either that or the spirit of the chicken continues to inhabit the box and is haunting the radar. So, the reason the Mechanicus does these rituals in the Warhammer 40K lore is essentially they were the IT technicians for Mars, for the colony of Mars. Mm-hmm.
And there was a war after things occur, and a bunch of the people that actually understood what made the technology work died off, or they no longer had contact with them. But what they had were the manuals. Thou shalt not deviate from the manual, and a religion revolved around that. I mean, we see this nowadays in daily life. There is a piece of equipment in my shop today. None of us really understand how to run it. We can use it. We can't write new programs. We can make a copy of an existing program, edit the lines we know we need to edit, but we don't truly understand the background processes that it's doing in order to create a new program or even diagnose some of the issues that it's having. We just know if you do X, Y, or Z, you get the output that you want. Iterate that ad infinitum over 10,000 years. And you've developed a religious cult that worships the manual. I think that is a similar thing to what we could see happening if we push AI too far. We have a tool that we know how to use. We don't know how it works, and we don't know how to fix it if it breaks.
I also think like maybe the shade of 40K that is plausible is just the idea that like so you have to it's also worth pointing out that like 40K is like many millennia into the future, and but it is at a time past
1,000 years.
but it is at a time past the peak of civilization, yes, and the peak of technology. Like there are weapons and there are things in 40K that are specifically like in the source material and per the story, they're listed as being like super rare. They don't always work right.
Archaeotech is the term.
Yeah, super powerful stuff that nobody really knows how to fix. And if it misbehaves, you just hit it against a rock or say a prayer over because you don't know how the hell to fix it.
Well, you recite whatever liturgy walks you through the process of maintaining that piece of technology, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I mean, it's much like a cell phone now. There is no single person on the planet that can build you a smartphone. Not one. Not one single person can build you a smartphone from scratch. The knowledge is too complex and too many faceted for a single person to be able to fix this.
And too diversified.
Yeah. Well, the only way, look, man, I am pretty okay at being a machinist. I am pretty okay at being a machinist. I am by far not a master machinist. I strive to be at some point a master machinist. I cannot make glass. I have no idea how you make glass. Not a clue. I would be completely useless in a glass factory other than maybe brute force manual labor. And those are two technologies that we figured out in the 17 and 1800s pretty well. And I can't do both. So the more complicated technology gets and the more we push it onto non-human sources, the more potential issues we'll have. And that's what causes the downfall of almost every civilization in 40K, except for the Eldar, who did BDSM too much.
Yeah.
And made a demon goddess. God, the prince of pleasure. The 80s were wild. A lot of cocaine being done at GW, I do believe.
Yes, as long as that doesn't get us sued.
No, I think it's a pretty well-known fact that a lot of the early writers of GW, they were on some stuff, man. They were on some stuff because there's been some retcons, and boy, were they needed.
Also, think it through. Like,
I'll recommend a book to you after. Don't read it. It's bad.
You're going to recommend a book to me, but you don't want me to read it.
I'm telling you not to read it, but it's really bad.
All right. So also thinking through like the whole idea of like Space Marines, you're talking like that is well worn. I mean, there have been within recent
super soldiers in power armor.
Well, within recent modern times, there have been attempts to emulate some of this.
Oh, and we will get there.
I mean, it's just iterative technology at this point.
Currently, it's a feedback issue. That's really what the problem we're having is the human ability to take pressure feedback. So like this glass, for instance, this is the really hard thing about developing prosthetics, right? I can feel pretty close how much pressure I'm putting on this glass at any given time. I can do that with either hand. I can do it without thinking about it. But the issue we're having with prosthetics is it's very hard to give that tactile feedback. And that's the same problem we're going to have with power armor.
Yeah.
Even though exoskeletons are coming a long way.
They are.
I mean, they're starting to get into the construction fields now. Or non-powered exoskeletons, but exoskeletons that assist a person in task via usually hydropneumatics or spring powered. So they're just lessening the resistance for you, which is massive.
I actually follow a guy on Instagram, and it kills me. I cannot remember his the name of his page, but basically he's been designing a one-of-one handmade, but an exoskeleton. And
the 3D printed one.
Yes.
Yes, I follow him on Reddit. I also don't know his name. I would love to talk to that guy.
Yeah, and it is unpowered, but a lot of what he's been pushing
Spring assisted.
But a lot of what he's been pushing is the fact that like the whole idea of doing this is to support heavier loads, is to distribute a load across the entire body. And like that is the basics of where I see power armor going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we already have mission configurable armor piercing munitions that are man portable. We do. We have a weapon currently in the US military development track that is essentially a bolter. It's just not a rocket grenade.
Yet.
Well, okay, to be fair, we also had rocket grenades a long time ago.
60s, 70s, the
gyrojet. Yeah. They were absolutely atrocious. They were just absolutely terrible.
They were just ahead of their time.
No. It was bad from the ground up. I mean, if we do like electro-ignited gyrojets, maybe if we could get the burn rate to stabilize and it would actually go in a straight line instead of just like zipping off into no man's land for no reason.
Feature, not flaw.
I guess. I mean, look, the only thing that we haven't really cracked yet, supposedly, is the gene editing of humans after they're born. Supposedly.
I think we'll get there.
Oh, I think we will. Look, they've already got these mRNA vaccines that supposedly rewrite DNA. There are CRISPR programs that you can CRISPR, I believe it's a bacteria or a virus that goes in and edits the DNA to give you different evolutionary traits in creatures. I think we will get there. Whether or not we find out that hell actually is a place that you can go visit and sail through to get places faster, I doubt it.
I mean, I didn't put Event Horizon in there, but that's basically the premise behind that.
Well, I mean, that's the warp.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Dune. So we're talking about, again, past the peak of technology.
Post-human AI conflict, or post-human cyborg conflict in this case.
Butlerian jihad in this case. But we're talking about we've reached and passed the point of thinking machines. We had a war against them. We've now had to basically train human beings to do all the things the thinking machines used to do, being navigating between the stars and complex fast mathematics and things like that, with the mentats and the navigators
and the doctors.
And we're dealing with a highly regimented, extremely hierarchical, neo-feudal society.
Yeah, I think that's actually the most likely outcome for near-term space exploration, is some sort of neo-feudalism or neo-imperialism.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of 6 one way, half a dozen the other, but like, I think of Dune as being very probable on a long enough time frame, only because, like, to me, so as much as I do adore a good constitutional republic,
the psychic tomfoolery aside, I would say, dude, is very probable. Look, we have no current evidence to show that precognitic or genetic memory can be accessed by humans.
Yeah,
we have no current evidence to suggest that. So I'm saying, aside from the psychic tomfoolery, yes, and turning a dude into a giant sandworm.
Yeah. But the reason I was saying that, like,
few reads through,
I love a good constitutional republic, but I'll be the first to admit that I think in order to take on something as significant as intergalactic exploration, I think we as a society wind up devolving back to a form of feudalism or imperialism. Just that way you can wrangle the collective efforts of people that much more efficiently. And I will be the first to say feudalism works from an efficiency standpoint. It's highly tyrannical. It is very much hierarchical. It is all the things I don't like in a governing force. It's all it runs counter to all the things I like about a constitutional republic, but it is very good at telling people what to do. And you're going to need a lot of that if you're going to get us to go to another solar system.
It probably is the likely outcome, that or some kind of corporate oligarchical top-down structured system. Raggle, I don't know if Fallout is referencing the Mentats or if it's just a joke on Mentos. I'm pretty sure it's a joke on the Mentos candy breath mint thing.
Yeah, the Mentats. So within the Dune universe, the once we get past the point where we can't trust the thinking machines anymore, which is literally AI and robots, we still have a need for doing complex mathematics very quickly. And so literally the Mentats is this whole like class of people who are trained, I think from birth or near birth.
They're genetically selected.
Yes.
And then trained from near birth.
Yeah. So we're talking about a combination of hierarchical eugenics program to select people with certain traits, and then we push those traits to think about it like almost forced evolution.
Rain Man.
Yeah. Well, but within the Dune universe, all of this really comes down to like forced evolution of humanity to the highest peak possible to supplant.
Yeah, the Bene Gesserit are essentially doing a millennia long breeding program to create the perfect psychic human.
Yeah. And the entire society is doing some version of that to train the best swordsmen, to train the best men, to train the best thinkers, to train the best navigators. Like that is a thing.
Yeah, and like the interesting thing I find about Dune is not really the technological perspective, but it is the political perspective of it, of essentially how a number of highly influential families essentially control their own fiefdom planets due to the fact that they're the only ones that have the wealth to manage shipping in between planets.
And they all have
so difficult.
And they all have a family collection of nuclear warheads.
Yeah, family collection of nuclear warheads.
Atomics.
And atomics. And none of them use them because if you use them in conjunction with shields, it'll essentially destroy the planet.
Whoops.
Yeah.
All right. So on a long enough timeline, politically plausible minus the psychic tomfoolery.
I mean, is it technically possible? Maybe, but the psychic tomfoolery, I think, is the lead. That and the sandworm transformation shenanigans are probably the two least likely bits of that.
I've watched The 600-Pound Man enough times to think that people can turn themselves into sandworms.
Look, that's just Baron Leto.
Okay.
No, Harkonnen. Baron Harkonnen. My God, why did I fuck that up? That's just Baron Harkonnen in his tar tub.
Mad Max. Now, admittedly, this is peak oil, and I don't know that I believe
post peak oil in the 1980s Australian outback.
Now, while I do think that peak oil is in and of itself not a thing, what I do always reference back to Mad Max is specifically the first movie. Is what you see, and this was pointed out to me a ways back, and like every time Mad Max comes up in conversation, I think back to this conversation I had with someone a long time ago, but like Mad Max going into Road Warrior shows you the progression of a society breaking down. Like in Mad Max,
we're seeing it actively right now.
But in Mad Max, they're still police. They're still trying to enforce the laws. They're not doing a great job of it because there's way more crime than they can deal with, and the police are kind of, demoralized and underfunded, under-equipped, so on and so forth. And you see violence towards the police that goes largely, with the exception of Max Rockatansky, largely unanswered.
Great last name, Rockatansky.
And then in Road Warrior, you see there is no police. It's roving gangs. It's tribalistic. It's very tribalistic. You see a scrabble over resources. But between those two, I think what you're seeing is a society in free fall.
Oh, you absolutely are. And we are seeing some of, in the U.S. right now, what you see in the first Mad Max movie. Look at the teen takeovers.
Flash mobs.
Look, flash mobs with cars where the teens are drag racing down the streets, shooting at each other, lighting cars on fire, destroying property. The police
mobs that run
can't
into
or won't
mobs
do
that run up
anything
into
about
stores and just strip them bare.
it.
Summer of Love.
We are seeing. Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of the Summer of Love were imports coming into those communities and destroying them.
True.
Specifically from wealthy liberal areas and a certain very specific demographic of college age white liberals were going there and burning black stores and burning black housing and destroying their communities, which we saw a number of times recorded by the community members saying, "Why are you people here? Leave. Stop. We don't want you to do this." Oopsies. Look, man, I think that the two most realistic things about Mad Max are, one, the fact that all of the other Mad Max movies, other than the first one, are told from the perspective of a person in the future telling the story of Max. So the stories are over embellished and over dramatized, and the bad guys are the over the top most evil thing ever. Perfect. It's exactly the kind of storytelling people do around a campfire.
It's folklore.
It is. It is. It's the folklore story of Max. And the other one is the slow collapse of law and order, which I think we're starting to see in this country. Now, whether or not it makes a turnaround, I don't know. We'll see. We saw a similar amount of breakdown of civil order in the 70s and 80s. But is this a continuation of that for different reasons? I don't know.
I think so.
I wasn't alive.
I mean, I was alive for most of the 80s, but I don't know. Hang on a second.
Ask Grandpa.
No, I have to pull out the list of topics and add this while you start talking about the recent movie, Civil War. Plausibility.
The recent movie, Civil War. So, plausibility. I would say that the rise in political violence we are seeing on the left makes this more and more likely as the years go on. Ever since 2016, we've seen a gradual but steady increase in attacks by leftists on right-wing politicians. We've seen a rise in assassination attempts and successful assassinations of not just like political figures, but political figures' supporters. Attacks on them in their homes, attacks on them in the street for wearing political messaging on their clothing.
Multiple instances of doxing and swatting.
Oh yeah,
lots of that.
The swatting really has tapered off compared to when streaming first began. Do you remember in the early 2000s how common swatting got for like 4 or 5 years there? It was every couple weeks a internet personality was having the police show up.
I know that like Tim Pool, who I honestly haven't watched in years, but I remember he quite famously like he literally like went to his local police. He went to his local police station and basically told them like, listen, y'all have all the reports. I'm getting swatted on a regular basis. So before y'all show up at my property again, pointing guns in my staff's face, would you please call me and ask, is everything
They got
okay?
private security to prevent the swattings.
Yeah.
First off, I mean, in 1 week while they were covering Trump's, I think, first campaign, they were swatted every single day. Now, do I think that we're likely to see a shooting war that escalates to tanks fighting it out on DC streets? I don't know. I really don't know.
I
think we're far more likely to see a breakdown of the federal government and balkanization than a massive U.S. Civil War style conflict.
I think that in order for the premise of Civil War to come true, you need a lot of things to line up just right, and I don't think it's near as plausible as like. I think it much more plausible that the federal government loses legitimacy with either a
Okay.
large metro area, which they arguably have already,
Oh, they have
or potentially
since
with an
like
entire
2010.
yeah, or potentially with an entire state, which has happened back and forth a few times. And what I think would escalate it into the next phase would be when that, because like up to this point, and this has kind of been my argument a bit against like what was it, Indiana with their suppressor laws and a couple other states that have kind of
Texas, I think
they've tried to pick this fight with the ATF over you can't enforce the NFA, but then of course the minute they roll somebody up, then all the politicians
they let them
all the
enforce
politicians
the
are
NFA.
AWOL. Now, I've said over and over and over, I personally refer to this as political jerking off because that's all it is. But I do think that if you had just the right set of circumstances and you ended up with a shooting match between federal agents and state law enforcement over enforcing something like this at that moment, we would have a situation where like the federal government cannot back down or risk destroying all their legitimacy.
Yep.
And the state has already kind of like stuck their berries and tackle in the door and slammed it on it because now they've literally picked a fight with federal agents. So like neither side can really back down and it just escalates. I see that as being a much more likely scenario with the understanding that other states are highly unlikely to want to get involved in that. But now it becomes a pissing match between that state and federal law enforcement, and I don't know how that resolves.
I think what you're more likely to see is small pockets of extremely violent tribal violence,
which we already get.
But I'm saying on a more common scale. So like what you saw in South Africa in the last few years, or in the Sudan genocides, or the Serbian conflicts, where you see ethnic, religious, and community level violence quite commonly.
Yeah. No, that's much more likely than like two states take on the federal government.
Or even a third of the states break away and take on the government. No, what you're going to see is a lot of sectarian violence that ends in the decentralization of power just through the Fed's inability to tramp it down, and then balkanization afterwards. I've argued for a long time that the U.S. only really worked because we had more space than people, and there was plenty of room for everyone to just sort of go their own way. And the federal government was impotent enough not to get in the way of them doing that.
But then Industrial Revolution reared its head and all but
technology,
all but coerced people back into the cities.
Coerced people back into the cities, and the communications technology eliminated the ability for you to just leave.
Yeah.
So now you have the U.S., which was largely founded by people that wanted to fuck off and be ignored in the woods.
Still my dream.
Still, a lot of us would love to just fuck off and be ignored in the woods. We'll take care of ourselves. We're fine. We do not want your help. We do not need your help. We do not need you taking half of our earnings. And then you have the people saying, no, take half of his shit and give it to me. And those two groups can't coexist indefinitely. Because eventually, just through the odds of the fact that those people keep breeding, the people that want to take all your shit, they do. And the people that don't want you to take all their stuff, a lot of times they limit the number of children they have to the amount they can support.
Funny old thing about adult responsibility, I know.
Right. When you take responsibility for yourselves and others, you do have a self-limiting equation there. And the other ones don't, because they're not the ones paying for it or caring. And that creates, much like the welfare state creates, a bunch of children that nobody really has any interest in raising correctly, because they just sort of exist. And it's not really your problem. The government will figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Phenomenal job they've done of it so far.
Yeah, well, I would argue that the biggest reason for the inner city violence we have right now is the welfare state, which has created and perpetuated more poverty than it's ever solved.
Funny how the war on poverty didn't reduce poverty and the war on drugs didn't get rid of drugs. Maybe what we need.
War on terrorism. It's working out great, though.
Yeah. I just hope the government doesn't decide to have a war on frickin' stupidity, or there'll be 10 times as much of that tomorrow.
I got it. A war on income. That's what we need. Can you think of a better way to make income go higher? War on income. I can get whatever drugs I want. It's really not that difficult. You walk down to the local local downtown, no matter where you are, you can buy whatever the hell you feel like.
But Nick, income without a control for inflation or cost of living is irrelevant, because all the numbers go up the same amount.
All the numbers go up.
That's like
where are you on that wave?
Every time some fucking rocket scientist in the government starts talking about raising the minimum wage, I'm like, well, that's freaking outstanding. When the person flipping burgers is making $20 an hour, and the person driving the ambulance is making $40 an hour, and the CEO is making $500 million a year, and a burger costs $35, we just make all the numbers go up at the same time, guys. This isn't making anything better. It's just making the numbers bigger.
Raggle, the commies are currently winning.
The commies are only winning because people are too impotent and disorganized to fight them.
No, the commies are winning because we have a high population of uninformed, ignorant, and stupid people.
That could be fixed.
That are not having to support themselves. Yeah, all we have to do is end the welfare state.
Okay, your terms are acceptable. Pull the pin.
Yeah, I figured. Look, that's really what it is. As much as I hate to say it, the only way we can get rid of the massive quantities of criminally stupid people is letting them die. Not killing them. That would be cruel. Letting them succeed or die on their own merits.
Your terms are acceptable to me. Since we're talking about criminally stupid, though, we do have one more banner we got to throw in here.
Go for it.
Escape from New York. I think of all...
Put them all in New York.
Okay.
We don't need it anyway.
I don't know if I put this above or below Mad Max, but this is like those two are like number one, number two for plausibility. Here's why I say it.
We already sort of have that in LA.
Listen, first of all, the freaking British had Australia. So this idea of like a self-contained penal colony, it's been done before. It works beautifully. I mean, New York City is already a fucking hellhole overrun by freaking communists, pink-haired morons, and freaking criminals. So all we really need to do is build a bridge and a line of belt feds on the bridges and mines in the freaking water and sharks with lasers on their heads. And then we just put all the criminals right there. Problem solved.
Isn't there a really nice port in New York?
Which point?
Like, I mean, ports are nice.
Bruh, I got Port New Orleans right here. We don't need New York. We don't need New York.
Sold. Bulldoze New York. Make a prison island. And all that money can go right through New York.
Hell no. There's already tons of public housing and apartments and high rises. Just
Nope. Don't need that. See, that's what gave the gangs in Escape from New York a place to hide. Bulldoze it. Flat island.
I don't
give them some crop seeds.
I don't. Whoa.
Let them
I don't care if they hide. I just want them segregated from society. What they do to each other on the island is their own problem.
Yeah. Look, we used to do that with prisons and mental institutions, and apparently that's not okay anymore. Now we have all these crazy people on the streets stabbing everyone and claiming they're Jesus.
But I kind of wonder if we are reaching a point where. So you've heard me say before, once the normies get scared, things will start to change, right?
I think once enough young men stop listening to overly empathetic women, it will change.
I think once enough normal people get the crap scared out of them, things will start to change. Because look, as long as like sure, okay, with the exception of the Pearl.
Oh, we forgot about Judge Dredd. Damn it.
Okay, well, Judge Dredd is basically like
it's basically Escape from New York 10 years later. But
it's Mad Max 1 halfway towards Warhammer 40K.
We forgot Demolition Man.
We could have done these forever, though. I mean, come on.
I love Demolition Man. Taco Bell is the only restaurant.
And I still don't know how the pink seashells work, or the three shells work.
The three. You don't know how to use the three shells?
How to use the three shells.
For any of you that have not seen Demolition Man, it is peak 1980s comedy action.
And
it's just fantastic. Go watch it with an open mind. You will love it.
I will also say Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone from the 90s is a good have a couple of beers, watch something silly with your friends. But the more recent Dredd starring Carl Urban, that is like very faithful to the original, very dark, very brooding. I love it personally. The fact that audiences didn't like it very much is further proof that audiences are stupid. It was an awesome movie.
Audiences didn't like it for all the reasons I loved it.
Exactly.
It was exactly what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be an authoritarian super cop killing everyone that got in his way.
But back to Escape from New York. I think Escape from New York is probably fairly plausible because I truly believe that, like, right now, if you obfuscate the pearl clutching, the average person couldn't give two shits about inner city violence because it doesn't affect them. The fact that you've got
largely what it is.
The fact that you have young men shooting each other over drug turf in all these cities means nothing to the average person until it comes time to start quoting gun violence statistics because it makes you feel safer. But the minute that violence spills over into the suburbs, the minute upper middle class white folks start seeing the shit go down in their front yard, that's when things will start to change because those tax-paying Republicans and those lily white liberals will start screaming bloody murder for the evil police officers to put their boot on people's necks and make the bad thing go away.
Well, look what happened when they shipped all those illegals to Martha's Vineyard. How long were they in Martha's Vineyard, Phil?
Oddly enough, nobody asked them to move in.
Mm-hmm.
All those
they were out in hours.
Yes.
Hours.
Notice how fast the temperature in New York changed when all of a sudden we went from, immigration, Haitian's a good thing and it's our strength and blah, blah, blah. And then the former mayor of New York was practically crying in front of the cameras because their city was overflowing with people that they didn't have the money to care for. And
they sent them to Illinois too, which was hilarious to watch Pritzker rant about.
Yes, because, I firmly believe that if you were in favor of migrants visiting your city or your state, we should be willing to bring the problem to your doorstep because you asked for it. But I think Escape from New York is actually fairly plausible, if for no other reason the fact that I really want to see a former Special Forces guy with an eye patch and a Mac 10 with a silencer and a scope mounted to the silencer smoking criminals.
I mean, it's a good training aid.
Seriously though, I see that happening, not in exactly the way it is now, right? Not exactly the way it is portrayed in the movie where it's like a penal colony, but in the fact that like you have such complete and total lawlessness. Think about the very beginning of Escape from New York. President's plane goes down. He gets captured. They send in the police over the bridge and they're confronted They're confronted with one guy who basically says, turn around and leave or we kill the president. And here's his finger. That is what I see happening in the near term as a very plausible scenario where certain areas are just persona non grata to police officers. And frankly, it already exists in a lot of metro areas.
It does already exist.
There are places in metro New Orleans where cops know I should not be after dark. I will end up airbrush on a t-shirt.
For any of you that think the Chicago projects completely went away, I got a bridge in Arizona to sell you.
Really? Is it right next to the beachfront property?
Yep.
I love that place.
Adjacent.
But seriously, like I see that concentrated pocket of lawlessness where police are not allowed to be, where law does not exist, where people do whatever they want flagrantly and out in the open because no one is coming to stop them. I see that being a very near-term, very likely scenario for a lot of places in this country. It practically already exists today, and in some places it arguably has existed for 10 or 20 years.
Did I ever tell you what happened when I went to pick up a friend of mine at the Greyhound station in downtown Southside Chicago?
I don't believe so. I haven't heard this story.
All right, so we were heading downtown. A friend of mine was in the military, and he was on a budget traveling back to see his family. So the cheapest thing he could get was a Greyhound ticket, right? So a couple of states, pops on the Greyhound all the way to the south side of Chicago. His arrival time was 3:35 a.m. on the south side of Chicago on a Saturday.
That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it worked out for him.
Extremely bold move. So we go down in my pickup, me and a couple of buddies, to go pick him up. And on our way to that Greyhound station, we were stopped by the police.
Mm-hmm.
We were asked what we were doing heading in that direction. He said, well, we got to pick up a friend of mine at the Greyhound station. He said, okay, here's what you're going to do. He said, I have two questions for you. He said, are any of you wearing body armor? The police officer asked me, are any of you wearing body armor? No, we were not. He said, okay, here's what you're going to do. His bus arrives at 3:35. You are going to wait here until 3:24. It will take you 11 minutes if you do not stop at any of the stop signs to drive to the Greyhound station. You will drive to the Greyhound station. If the bus is not there, you will drive past the Greyhound station. You will get to this street. You will turn around and you will drive back to the Greyhound station. If the bus is not there, you will drive back here and you will leave. He says, do not stop at any stop signs. Do not stop at any stoplights. Do not stop for any pedestrians in the road. That was what Chicago PD told me to do.
Jeff Jag saying that sounds like an armored convoy situation, and this actually sounds extremely like the briefings I got before we did convoy ops in a war zone.
I was told by a Chicago PD officer, you will not stop at any stop sign, stop light, or for any pedestrian.
Did I ever tell you about the briefing I got before I drove from Baton Rouge into New Orleans post-Katrina?
Yeah, you have. I think you've told it on the show a couple times.
Yeah, short version was I was told Baghdad rules, which is a whole nother story that basically involves anyone that acts up or gets crazy or points a weapon at you, you drill them, drop them in the street, and keep going.
Sort it out on the back end.
No. Not sorted out. The sorting out was done by dropping them in the street and keeping your foot on the gas.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying that that's like a good thing to have to do, but given that at that moment they were literally shooting at police officers and National Guardsmen all throughout the city for just random
and the fire rescue crews.
Yeah, and EMTs.
Like, why would you shoot at rescue crews? That's just.
Yeah, and Gillian's reminding me. So several weeks after Katrina, maybe been 6 weeks later, a friend of mine, my best friend actually, he was running fuel trucks in and out of the New Orleans area for FEMA, and he got into a situation where his as he was leaving, he was running out of fuel, and I think all the friggin' his headlights and everything burned. He popped a fuse or something and burned out all the lights on his truck. So he stopped at a gas station and figured, well, in the morning when the sun's up, I'll get gas. I'll drive out of here. Well, he's sitting there and he's hearing gunshots off in the distance. He's not too far from like Belchase, Louisiana, which isn't like the hood, but this is post-Katrina New Orleans. So he literally called me knowing that I was on that military post that he wasn't too far from, not realizing I had just left there to go up to Hammond to spend the weekend with Gillian. So the two of us got in my car, drove down there, grabbed him, and brought him back to Hammond, where it was far enough out of the area that he was safe. And the conversation I had with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was basically like, look, until we get back up here, I'm treating this whole thing like a war zone. So I'm going to need you to do exactly what I say and not argue and not ask me why and not ask me when. And ask me no questions. If I tell you to do something, just turn your brain off and do what I ask you to do immediately.
Yeah, now is the time to be listening to the person with combat experience.
Yeah. And I mean, it was uneventful. We went in, we got my friend, we left.
Good.
But, I mean, we had been well briefed not to be outside of post after dark. And I was literally disobeying everything we've been told up to that moment to go get my friend. So it was a weird situation. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, I mean, I think Escape from New York probably pegs the plausibility scale because that's happening. Like I of all these of all this pure sci-fi bullcrap that's like maybe 20,000 years in the future maybe happen.
Mm-hmm.
The two things we hit on were Mad Max and Escape from New York, and we're both admitting that there's some aspects of those that are happening today.
There are. I mean, in Europe, they are absolutely occurring.
No-go zones.
Look at the no-go zones in almost every European country except for Poland, oddly enough.
And they've tried to establish them here in the U.S. a couple of times.
They are currently suing to try to start a Muslim-only community in Texas. Look, we've said it before on this show. Islam is not a race. It's not a religion. It's a political ideology that is hiding behind religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a violent and antithetical to Western civilization political ideology.
Also, oddly enough, considering the number of blue-haired feminists that support it, very patriarchal and very misogynistic.
You know, I have a cousin that's extremely left-leaning, and she was very pro-Muslim immigration. I said, you know what? Great. I said, I'd love it. Do it. Bring them all over. See what happens. She said, what? Why? I said, I'm a man. It's going to be great for me. I can fake being a Muslim. How's it going to be for you?
According to Stuart, I already have the beard. I had the beard for it before I cut it.
You did. But hey, man, the summer trim. You got to do it.
No, I mean my whole issue with Islam in a nutshell really just comes down to like a severe case of cultural incompatibility.
Oh yeah.
And I will be the first to admit, if me saying that culture is incompatible with my culture, if that makes me a bigot, far right, culturally insensitive, or ethnocentric, if it makes me any of those things, I am fucking okay with that. Piss off.
You know, I have been told
I don't want a culture imported into my homeland that has the express stated goal of displacing and destroying my culture. I have a right, because this was my home first, of saying, no, I'm going to have my culture and it's going to be maintained and I'm going to make sure it sticks around, and I'm going to make damn good sure that if anybody threatens to destroy it, I destroy them first.
Look, man, this is the problem with the left attempting to manipulate people's emotions by calling them Nazis and calling them racists and calling them bigots. Eventually what you've done. No. It's even worse than that. It's even worse than that. And I'll tell you why. It's not just that the word loses its meaning. It's that, well, if I'm going to be punished like I'm doing all these things, I might as well profit and do all of these things.
If I'm going to be the villain in your origin story, I'm going to get my money's worth.
I'm going to be the villain. Yeah, I'm going to get my money's worth out of being the villain. I might as well enjoy burning the bitch down.
I'm cool with that.
Look, you cannot weaponize language like that without blowback. And that is the issue that they're going to have, because you're seeing it now. You're seeing them walk down the street and do their man on the street accusing people of being racist and accusing people of being a Nazi. And there are military fighting age males that are saying, yeah, you know what? Fuck it, I am. Doesn't mean anything anymore. That's not a very long step from convincing them to get into the opposite political extremist ideology. Because you've already lumped them in with that camp. They might as well be there with friends. And that's not a great thing.
It doesn't encourage moderation.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. If anything, it discourages moderation. It discourages discourse. And that is where society breaks down.
And that's how we wind up with Escape from New York.
Yes. Or Civil War.
One or the other. So yeah, Raggle didn't notice until I said something. Yeah,
it's classy.
So not because having a long beard makes your face any hotter, but because as I've started to do range officer training, I'm spending extended periods outside in the heat. And the first time I came home, my beard was out to here in an afro because it got hot and sweaty and just blew up. And, I mean, having it shorter does make it a little more manageable, and it cleans so much easier. Like this is purely this is easier for me to maintain when I'm going to be outside a lot. And I'm going to be outside every couple of weekends for basically a whole day during the hottest part of the day for a few months. I'm actually doing my second training class on Sunday.
How is that going?
I have to admit, and this is...
Have you released your inner FUD?
Oh, you already took away the inevitable tangent. I was going to throw that banner up because it's like the perfect time for it.
I deleted it because I didn't want to confuse you.
No, so like range officer training is going really well. I actually had a really great time my first time out. The trainer made the comment. Apparently, he made it to me, but he also made it to the training coordinator, just commenting on like how well I was able to kind of like integrate myself into a group of new shooters and help try to school them up and everything. Like, so in the name of context, this was a group of, I think, 5 young African-American men. I'll be the first to say, this is Louisiana. It's not like black people are like, a one-off down here.
No.
But this range does tend to be very, 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 very Caucasian. As is the shooting community for a long time. Tends to be very Caucasian dominated.
To be fair, most gun control laws started to keep black people from getting firearms.
Yes.
Which is why another reason why gun control is unconstitutional, because it's race-based.
100%. But this group of young men came in, had, I think, just purchased these firearms, had very little experience with them, very obviously, and they were having a collection of function issues with their firearms. So at first it was like, we have some rules, like all the steel on the pistol range is for pistols only. And somebody had a Draco out there shooting 7.62 x 39.
Yeah. Technically pistol, not a pistol.
Yeah. And all I did was I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I understand that's a pistol. It shoots a rifle round. You cannot shoot at the steel." Very polite, very direct. He appreciated it.
Informative.
Yes. And it wasn't long after that I started noticing that they had a pair of AR pistols and they were having all kinds of freaking problems getting these damn things to run. So I dove in, asked if I could lend a hand, asked if they needed some help. And as soon as they gave me the green light, I dove in to try to help them figure out what was going on with these two guns. And another range officer, because we were very heavy that day on ROs, came over and we both were trying to diagnose these guns right there on the range and showing them like, hey, they had a round get stuck in the chamber, didn't know how to mortar an AR. I showed them how to mortar an AR. Like, we brought over a can of lube and tried to lube up the guns to get them to run a little bit better. Like, we did everything we could to try to help these guys have a very positive shooting experience with very new firearms that were not behaving correctly. At the end of the day, they came away frustrated with the firearms, but very happy with the experience they had, very appreciative of us for like taking the time to try to school them up and try to show them some things. And my point of view has always been like, there is no downside to more people learning how to responsibly carry and use firearms. There's no downside to it, because what's going to happen is that these young men, having gone through this process of purchasing these firearms, they had to fill out background checks, because I know they bought them at a gun store from a licensed FFL. Like, I got the whole story from them. Every one of them had to fill out a 4473. Every one of them had to go through a background check. Every one of them has had that experience now. You will never again be able to tell these young men about the gun show fucking loophole, because they know better. You will never again be able to tell these young men about how all ARs are machine guns, because they came out to the range with FRTs in their ARs and they were choking. They were not running super reliably like machine guns would.
Oh God.
The education they bought themselves that day guarantees that 90% of the gun control bullcrap you could pump into their heads will never find fertile ground ever again, because they know better now.
Yep.
So that is the reason why I started going down this path of becoming a range officer, is because I think public ranges, as much as I would prefer a private range, as much as public range scare the crap out of me because I've been muzzled at so many of them. But I think public ranges serve a purpose, and they have to stay open because they are the gateway for most people to get into shooting. And if,
they absolutely are.
And if we as a community are ever going to have a chance of maintaining our rights and pushing back against decades of effort to strip them away from us, we have to keep public ranges open. We have to keep people coming into the sports. We have to keep people coming into lifestyle, and we have to encourage them to come in, meet them wherever they're at with whatever guns they want to bring to the range, whether we like them or not, whether we think they work well or not, it doesn't matter. This is a zero-sum game at the end of the day. They are either going to be on our side, or they are open. There's an open invitation for somebody to pump their head full of gun control crap and turn them the other direction. I would rather have them on our side.
Absolutely. This is why anytime I hear somebody thinking about wanting to get into shooting, I invite them out to a range day. My treat, bud. Come out. As much ammo as you want, whatever guns I got, you can shoot everything, as long as you listen to the safety instructions. That's the only thing I ask. Because you know what? Dare rules. The first one's free. That's how you get somebody hooked.
Yeah. And my big thing is like, as long as a person can come out to the range and conduct themselves safely, then I've done what I set out to do. If the next time I come across them, they start asking, I hope that the next time they come out, they're asking me for tips on how to shoot more accurately and not just like, muzzle dump everything into the berm like they were. But hell, most of us,
that's fun.
Most of us started out shooting at trash piles in the freaking junkyard. So, there
100%.
There is a thing.
Shooting at used soda cans in grandparents' backyard.
Look, I'm not saying this definitely did happen, but hypothetically, a group of slightly more than teenage boys might have disassembled a junkyard car in the woods with shotguns and AKs and ARs and handguns. And then,
you're talking about the backwoods shooting car. Yeah, everybody's hometown had one of those, whether you were invited or not.
And then they might have taken that and put it on a trailer and drug it to the nearest junkyard and dumped it off in the parking lot, and it looked like Bonnie and Clyde's getaway car. But
they won't take it if you drop it off during the daylight.
But theoretically, they were smart enough to remove the VIN numbers first.
That's good. That's good, because that's how you get caught.
That is how you get caught, when there's a VIN number on the car that you tore to pieces and then dropped.
Yeah.
In Minecraft. All I'm saying is, like, look, I totally understand there's that perspective out there that's like, hey, these guys were, shooting FRTs in the berm and doing dumb stuff and this and the other. But I'm like, you know what?
Were they being safe?
As long as you don't send one over the berm, look, me and my idiot friends did plenty of dumb stuff with guns when we were younger. Christ knows we tried to be as safe as we knew how about it while doing the dumb stuff.
And that's as an RSO at a public range, your only job is to make sure that they're being safe.
Only one is safety. If along the way
everybody goes home uninjured,
if along the way goal. I can give these guys a little bit of knowledge about how these firearms work, how to deal with problems, then all the better. I mean, literally the first thing I told them after we took a look at their guns and realized they hadn't been cleaned and they were bone dry was like, hey, y'all need to get some lube in these things and you need to go get some cleaning kits for them. Like, I think that will solve a lot of your problems if you have a chamber brush so you can clean out all the crap and everything that's obviously in your chamber, because they were having an issue where when they would try to chamber around, it would stop like a quarter inch short of going into battery. And that tells me the chamber was dirty.
Carbon fouling in the chamber. Yeah.
Yeah, especially.
Or if you were shooting dirty Russian ammo back in the day, resin in the chamber.
Yeah. But in this case, they were shooting brass, but I mean, these things were
carbon.
Well, these things were FRTs. I think they only had like 6-inch or 5-inch barrels. They were little bitty. So those things were just dumping carbon crap right back into the chambers.
Yeah. Those are probably overpressured to fuck.
Yeah. I made some recommendations. They asked me what I would do to try to make them more reliable. I gave some suggestions.
Yeah.
But I told them, number one, go back to the same gun show you bought these things from. Go find the crusty old guy that's got like military spec cleaning kits just lining from here to there.
Go for
Buy one for every one of them. It'll have a chamber brush in it. And I
Yep.
told him, get some gun lube, or in a pinch, get some 10W30 Mobile One.
Yeah, 10W30 works pretty good.
I'm going to tell you right here and now, I'm not saying it's the right way, but I have it on good authority that soldiers in a combat zone that needed some lube to keep ARs running have been known to pull the dipstick out of a Humvee and just right into the chamber, and it works perfectly.
Look, when it comes to some lubricant or no lubricant, the wrong lubricant is better than none.
I did make a point of telling them don't use WD-40, and their face lit up, said, the guy that sold us these said don't use WD-40. And I was like, that guy was right.
Good man.
That man was looking out for you. But yeah.
You know what? I love introducing new people to shooting because, man, I have some pretty good firearms. They're not top tier, but they're pretty good. And if I take a new shooter out into the range and there's somebody that's willing to listen, I can have them doing cool, fun stuff with that gun within the first range session. And it just gets that bug in them.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, all that to say that, like, yeah, RSO training is going phenomenal. The only thing that irks my nerves is it's going to take me, after this Sunday, I've got 8 more training sessions I got to go through, and then one big RSO class that's going to be, I think, half a day or a full day. And then I should be, like, fully blessed off, done. Nice. But so far, I love it. It's
good.
Everything I didn't think I was going to enjoy about it, I've actually fallen into very quickly. Because, like, as we said before, I'm an introvert. I don't like dealing with people, especially people I don't know. But something just clicks in my brain when I see a person struggling with something that I know how to do really well. And I feel that compulsion to, like, just tap them on the shoulder and offer some help.
It triggers that knowledge bug in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I can make this more fun for you.
Yep. 10 out of 10. And that's what I'm after. But let's go ahead and pack this one in, man. It's been an hour and 40 minutes. I saw Dr. Scary Guy say, remember that 1 hour goal. I like it better this way. I don't disagree with you, sir, but some people do not appreciate the 8 hour long podcasts.
Look, every conversation lasts the time it takes. Some are shorter than others.
Yeah, there is that. Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Mark it on your calendars. August the 13th is coming up. It will be the 10th anniversary. Nick and I will definitely be here. I'm going to start harassing Andrew to make sure he's going to be able to make it. There will be
harassing his lady too.
There will be no topic. There will be no banners. There will be no nonsense. There might not even be admin work. We are just going to show up and see who shows up in the comments, and we're going to BS about what 10 years of
I'm fairly certain I have the day after that off of work.
Oh, so we can really act a fool.
Yes.
I don't have that Friday off.
I'm pretty sure I have that Friday off.
I do not have that Friday off. Fortunately, I recover from drinking very quickly.
Good. You're going to need it.
I'm sure. All right. Matter of fact, going out the door. Good night, everybody. Thank all 7 of you for hanging out for a very, very long show to talk about how the world is going to end and whether or not Hollywood got it right.
Maybe.
See y'all another week. Bye.
Good night.